So I had some thoughts on why Yash from Beyond the Alchemy may not be a legitimate retainer. And one of the reasons why I think that the guy's not 100% legitimate is because he talks about edging a lot. He talks about how, and I don't mean this, when I say edging, I mean it in the same way he means when he says it. I'm not talking about a physical action where you indulge in some type of sexuality or something like that and you stop before you climax. That's not really what I mean. What I mean by this is I mean uncontrolled sexual thoughts and saying that you're never going to fully overcome it, and saying that to be a 100% pure brahmachari is impossible in this realm, and all kinds of stuff like this. Stuff that seems new age to me and seems like the same type of BS that other retainers are trying to say. I think the biggest wake-up call that Yash doesn't understand about what he's saying is people like Paramahansa Yogananda and Sadhguru exist. And the reason why I bring up Sadhguru is because he's so famous. That's one of the reasons why I bring him up so much. Even though he's not my biggest influence, I bring him up a lot because of how famous he is. One of the main things that Sadhguru emphasizes over anything else when it comes to this whole semen retention thing is that the mind comes first. Right? And this totally blows people like Yash completely out of the water, because mind comes first. It's not like you retain and then all of a sudden you become all oriented properly and your energy's going up and everything's just happening the way it's supposed to be happening. No. One of the important parts about certain intense sadhana, such as meditation with the eye raised up, in the forehead, where you raise your eyes up and you focus on the breath, is that you enter a state that is that is a state of true meditation, unlike what most passive meditation will teach you. Jeff the Outlaw Yogi knows about these meditations, and you enter a state that is so satisfying if you do this enough, that a lot of these things basically evaporate. And even though this wasn't my particular the particular way that I've been doing this, I do know it works, and it absolutely, if done every day, can make you a person who doesn't think sexual thoughts and doesn't have the type of ridiculous problems that people like Yash talk about. One of the problems is he talks to these gurus, but he's talking to these gurus backwards. He's coming at this from a completely backwards angle. You know what I mean? And he talks about his experience, but he doesn't. And he talks about how there is no technique. Well, if you're retaining, but you're not doing the stuff, and then you get to the point where your energy or your thought forms or whatever is so intense, when it comes to sexuality, of course you're going to have times where it's going to be hard for you to retain, maintain yourself and, control yourself and stuff around a lot of these things. But you'll notice people like Sadhguru doesn't have that problem. People like Paramahansa Yogananda doesn't go around talking about that problem, talking about constantly thinking about lust and constantly having problems with lust. You don't see it. Why is that? Now people like him will say that he's built different. He had to go through certain lessons to learn the stuff that he learned. And I say, you're damn right. The lesson that you learned, I need to try to lessen my profanity also. But the lesson that you basically learned, that you should have learned, is that when you don't work on the mind first, see my method, what I had to do is I literally had to stay away from any images or any pornography or any type of nonsense on the internet. And I basically had to, whenever I fapped, just not watch the content, not let the stuff rewire inside my brain. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that when it comes to sexuality, men are often framed as being the ones that are visual when it comes to sexuality, but human beings have they're largely visual creatures. I mean, unless you're completely blind, you're largely a visual creature in nature. So what I did is every time it would get really, really intense, I put my mind first and I put my body second. I said, I've gotten to the point where I'm uncontrollable right now. I need to release, right? And so I did this, and I didn't watch any content, and I didn't have any screwed up fantasies while doing it. And it made me distant from it. And then I would go another 6 or 7 days and do it. And I'm on 8 days now, you know, or 8.5 days actually. And I'm getting to the point where, you know, basically 9 days because, you know, because most of this day's over anyway. You know, I've been getting to the point where now my mind is detoxing this stuff, and I'm not as attached to it anymore as I used to be. But the problem with when you listen to people like Yash, they always put the mind second. And then they talk about how, well, at first you're going to be able to do retention, and it's going to be all right, and it's going to be easy and stuff, but eventually your mind's going to get to you. That's because you didn't give your mind release, the necessarily release, and let your body stop wiring to the substance to distance yourself away from it, so you don't associate sexuality with something that, you know, creates happiness. Because if you see it, it's going to be in your mind. So, you know, and I think the thought forms are another, the thick thought forms in the atmosphere are another thing that does it. It's not inherently being a physical being that makes you sexually out of control. It's just the fact that people just don't understand the nature of this stuff. You know, he's basically just a much more intelligent version of Ren, in that instead of just thinking everything's in his mind, he's kind of more on my level in a sense, but he thinks things are too physical. And he thinks you don't have enough control over things. And that's another huge issue, I think, when it comes to this whole pornography thing, is that, you know, and when you learn how to meditate, and what happens is you do what I do, but then after a while, after being distant enough, the energy starts to go into stuff and it makes you slowly start to meditate and slowly start to concentrate on things. And eventually you get into these extremely pleasurable states of meditation, that it's not that you're completely incapable of sexuality if you wanted, but it's extremely pure. It's not an edgy kind of sexuality, not even in a pure sense. It's just that you're in control of yourself. And I really think that a lot of people think that they have less control than they really do. Because a lot of people, what they do is they put, the problem is not that the mind isn't important. It's, you know, you got to put your mind first, but then you got to put your body second, you know? There was an old man who used to make videos about Hebrew Aramaic stuff in the Bible, and his name was Alan Horvath. I used to watch his videos a lot. Me and this crazy person named, you know, who goes by the name One Woman Vigilante on YouTube, but her name's Bryony something, and you know, supposedly Bryony McCarthy, but I don't know if I trust that, because Paul McCartney was a badass, and I don't think she was. Right? I think she's trying to say she's related to Paul McCartney. I don't think Paul McCartney knows her ass, but you know that's the truth. There, I'm using profanity again, but you get the point. Is that, you know, he used to say, old man Alan Horvath used to say, 90% of the truth is no truth at all. And even though that I don't 100% agree with that in the way he says it, because of certain experiences that I've had, and I don't rely on my own understanding, I rely on experience, but that's not my own understanding. That's not my intellectual nonsense trying to make sense out of things, right? It's just a more vast comprehension of metaphysics that is not my own understanding. Because it's not what Ren does, and it's not what people like Yash does, and it's not trying to make me out to be the guru when I'm not really, right? And that's one of the biggest problems. A lot of these people have a problem with authority, and they don't get a lot of these things. Which is why one of the best people to probably watch is Jeff the Outlaw Yogi, right? When it comes to a lot of these things. But I just wanted to say that. I don't think Yash is a terrible person, but I do think that the way he's doing this, you know that Sadhguru does not sit around and talk about these things in the way he does. You know he doesn't. I mean, it's just not in his nature. So for Sadhguru to be wrong, and he understands so much about this, for him to be wrong and for Yash to be right would be a mass anomaly. It would basically be like saying Yash is like some type of creature that's not completely human, because we know this works. And it's not just some vague technique. It's not some vague, hollow technique where Yash tries to say, it's all about grace, man. The technique's just not going to, you know, you're just going to have to figure that out yourself. It's not like that, man. I'm telling you. It's really not like that. You know, and Jesus Christ said, he who asks in my name, that's his character, right? They who ask in my name, it shall be given unto you. And I really believe that. Full-heartedly, I believe that. So, you know, Yash, again, he's a wise person, but I really think that he is also somewhat of a hollow retainer. Because, right, and even he talks about it. He talks about how, you know, I needed to experience this sexuality and whatnot. It's because it's constantly going on in his head, and he doesn't even realize it's happening. he's going the long path. He's going the path that's more difficult. That's extremely difficult. When in reality, when the mind is cleared first, the body falls in line with it itself, right? And it's not that you cannot be sexual if you want to be, but this extreme obsession with edging and stuff like that is not natural to the highest form of retention, I don't believe. You know, and most people who make retention videos on a high level, you know, people like Gods of Semen and people like Teachings of the Wise and people like Ascension Keys, I believe it's called, they don't make videos like that, you know. And you know, shout out to Magic Maya also, because she makes videos also. She's a woman. She makes videos about stuff like this. And even though I don't really, you know, I may not agree with every single little thing she says, but I think Ren doesn't respect women who make videos about semen retention, which is unfortunate because the cosmic energy that's used in the initiation of sex is also used in the female functions as well, and is wasted in the same way. And when a female, I think they're called brahmacharinas or something like that, when they retain themselves, they get the same benefits. They just get a feminine version of it, right? So, and that's not even to say they don't gain strength. Some of them gain strength even. But, you know, a lot of this stuff is just blown way out of proportion. Don't follow strange, weird, new age doctrines, man. It's wacky. But at the same time, you know, like some of this wisdom is new age, but at the same time, you know, don't follow weird new age doctrines, right? Because it's all about what's grounded in truth, you know? And, you know, even more expansive things such as the Aetherius Society, if you've been watching this long, I might as well bring this up too. It's not new age, I don't think, in the woo-woo sense. I really think that these people are really, really onto something. Because the stuff that they say is grounded in metaphysics. So I just want to say that. And bye. Don't follow the tooth fairy. All right.